Are you tired of manually adjusting your designs every time you make a change? Do you want to ensure that your designs stay consistent and responsive across different screen sizes? Look no further than Figma Constraint. Hi, welcome to Design Novice. My name is Wheels, and I love teaching non-designers how to design. Without further ado, let's go. So first of all, what exactly is Figma Constraint? Well, Figma Constraints are a powerful tool that allows you to control how your design responds to changes in screen size. With constraints, you can create dynamic designs that adapt to different devices and orientations without the need for constant manual adjustments. So at this point, I'm just going to launch Figma and start the class. So let's head on to Figma right now. So here we are on Figma. I've created a file and called it Figma Constraint. So you can also open a file and follow along so that you can practice everything we're going to talk about in this video. The first thing I want to do is to get a frame. Now, it should be important to know that anytime you're creating like components in Figma, make sure you are using frames and not shapes, okay? So that you can have full access to constraint. And this is how Figma works with frames, okay? So here we have a frame, and let's put an element right here. Let's draw this ellipse. I'm just going to hold down shift so it's perfect. Okay, so let's draw this ellipse. Let me make it a little bit bigger. So once you have element like this, so we have this ellipse here and we have the frame here. Now, if you look at the layer panel, you would see that the ellipse right here is directly on top of the frame. That's because right now, Figma is identifying them as two different objects. But immediately I move this ellipse directly right into this frame, it becomes a child of this frame. Right now, if you go back to the layer panel, you notice now that it is directly inside the frame. And you have this small arrow here you can use to collapse and also review the content of this frame. Another thing to note here is the default constraint that Figma adds for you. Right now, if you look at this circle, I'm just going to go ahead and center this horizontally and also center it vertically so that it's right on the center of our frame, but you can do something else. You can see that the default constraint Figma gives us is always constraining to the top on the vertical axis and the left on the horizontal axis. So let's take a look at where exactly do you find this constraint. Okay, so the constraint is found under the constraint toolbar right here on the right hand side, constraint. And from what you can see, once you select an object inside the frame, you're going to see the constraint of that object. And by default, it is set to left on the horizontal and top on the vertical. So what exactly does this mean? But before we take a look at what this means, what are the other options we have right there? On the horizontal axis, we have the left, we have the right, left and right, center, and scale. Meanwhile, on the vertical, we have top and bottom, center, and scale. So let's start with the horizontal one first. Now, when an object is constrained on the horizontal axis, this determines how the object moves along the horizontal axis with respect to the parent container or the parent frame. So what does this mean? So right now we have this constraint to the left. That means if I go ahead to increase this container or this frame, you would see that it sticks to the left hand side. Okay, it sticks to the left hand side, it doesn't move. So what if we want this to actually be on the right hand side and not on the left hand side? So I'm just going to move this back and I'm going to move this a little bit on the left hand side, on the right hand side. And then let's go to our constraint menu and move this from left to right. Now, when I try resizing this, see, it's now moving this circle along the right hand side. So that means we've constrained this to the right hand side of the horizontal axis. The next thing there is the left and right. So this left and right is a little bit tricky, but I'm going to explain it so you understand. And for this, let me just move this back to the center using the alignment here. Now, when you constrain an element inside a frame to the left and right, what you're simply telling it is this. That means when I increase this on the left hand side, it should grow along the right hand side. Now watch what happens. You can see that on the left hand side right here, it is fixed, but it's growing along the right hand side. Okay. Now, if I should let me do Ctrl Z back. If I should once again move this or adjust this from the left hand side, you can see it grows from the left hand side. So that is basically what left and right means. So let me do Ctrl Z again right there. So I think at this point, let me break this circle out. Let's work with a rectangle so you can actually get an understanding of what is going on. So let me draw a rectangle inside here, and automatically Figma sets our constraint to left and right again. Okay. So remember, we're still working on the horizontal constraint. So let me take this back to left and right. So when I increase this, you'd notice that it increases this on the right hand side. Let me do Ctrl Z here. And when you increase here from the left, you can see that it also increases this element on the left hand side. Meanwhile, what if you want this to increase automatically both on the left and right? Well, that is when you go and you choose scale. But before scale, let's take a look at center. Center simply means that no matter how you increase this, I want this object to maintain the center position. So right now, if I increase, no matter how I increase this, it's always going to maintain the center position. Meanwhile, let me do a Ctrl Z right there. If you set this back to scale, if you set it to scale, it is going to increase proportionally based on how you increase the parent frame. So if I increase this, you can see that it is increasing proportionally. So it increases in size. Okay, it increases in size. So that is what we have there on the constraints for the horizontal axis. You have the horizontal, you have the left, the right, the left and right, center, and also scale. Now let's go to, let's take this back to left, and it's fixed back to the left side. So let's talk about the vertical constraint. Now, the vertical constraint talks about how the element is positioned on the vertical axis of the parent frame. So by default, it is always set to top. Now, when you try adjusting this, it's going to stick to the top. It's going to stick to the top, okay? It's going to stick to the top. I can easily move to this to the bottom, then set my vertical constraint and say bottom. Right now, this can now stick to the bottom, okay? And you use this majorly for headers and footers. You can stick things to the bottom. You can also stick things to the top constraint so that they don't move while you try adjusting your parent frame. Okay. So the next thing on vertical, we also have the top and bottom, which basically behave like the left and right, but right now with respect to the top and bottom axis. Okay. And we also have center and scale, which basically does the same thing the horizontal one does, but this time around with respect to the vertical axis. So anytime you're working on Figma, you are more likely going to be fixing these things to determine how they respond to resizing. Okay, so let's go ahead and do something now. So let me get a frame. Okay, let me get a frame now. Let me put this one side. Let me get a frame, and for this frame, I just want to go ahead and get desktop size. So here's our desktop frame size, and let's give this a little bit of grayish color. Okay, right there. So that's our frame right there. So I want to go ahead and let's just do a simple logo right here. Okay, so let's just call this constraints. Okay, so this is our logo right here. I'm just going to drop it inside there. So constraint. Okay, and let me just add a little bit of design to it. Shift A, and let's give it a color there, and then this constraint. This is obviously not the best the best logo, but we're just going to use this, and just to make it a little bit interesting, let's give this color right here. Let's give it kind of yellowish color, and then here I'm just going to go to the corner radius and let's make here 25. Okay, so we have our logo right here. Let's do this. So here we have our logo, and then I want to go ahead and create a sort of menu right now. Okay, so let's have home, and just gonna do Shift A. Okay, so this is like our home. Let's turn this to medium, or let's go with semi bold. Okay, so home there, and about us. Okay, about us, and there's projects, and the last thing we want to get is contact us. Okay, so I'm just going to select these guys here and then add them in an auto layout again with Shift A. Okay, so spacing 8. Okay, let's activate a grid so we can see exactly what we're working on. So to activate your grid, select this, go to layout grid. Let's add a basic 12 column grid, column 12 instead of 5. Let's make it 12, and make sure this is set to stretch. And for the margin, let's go with 80 pixel as the margin. Got at 20. Let's leave it as 20. Okay, so now let me move this here to basically start at the grid. Let's also move this here to also start at the grid. Now, what you're going to see is, let me do this. I think these guys, the left and right pattern should just be at 0, 0, 0, okay, 0, okay. So I want to move this directly right here, and then increase this to like 16 or 32, so there's enough spacing for us to play with. Now let's select these two here, and let me just align them vertically. Okay, vertical center. Okay, now this is what we are trying to do right now. If I select this desktop and I try resizing this, you can see we kind of have this menu not reacting the way we expected it to. The same way you can see what's going on right there. So instead, what we want to do is to select this one and set the constraint to top and left, and then select these other ones here, then set it to top. But this time around, I want to click on the right hand side for the vertical constraint, right hand side. Now, with this, what you notice is that when I resize this, you can see that it maintains this particular angle right here. This maintains the right hand side position. So you can easily move things around now. Okay, you can easily resize this frame without these things going off grid. Okay, so let's go ahead and have let's have this one here. Let's have this here. Copyright. I'm just zooming a little bit. Copyright. Okay. Copyright 2023. Okay, and then let's have this hyphen. All right, reserved. Okay. All right, reserved. We want to go and make this instead of 18. Let's go with medium, and then let's add this in auto layout, and then let's give this a very simple color. Okay, let's go with view. Okay, let's have the same color we have there. Okay, and I want to make this white. Okay, so I want to go ahead and make this top bottom. Let's use 16, and then this one I'm just going to drag it right here, drag up here, and then the top and bottom I want to use 32, and then let me just center this using auto layout center, and then move this to bottom. Right now we want this footer panel to always stick to the bottom part of this. Let me align this as well. Okay, so we want this okay, so at this point, so that we can actually see what we're doing, let me go ahead and make this frame black and make this content right here menu white. Okay, so what we want here is to make sure is to make sure that when we move these things, it stays at the bottom part. So what you can do right now is to select this, and then under the constraint, the vertical part, you want to set this to bottom. Okay, so now you'd see if I try resizing this is always going to stay to the bottom. So when I try adjusting this now, you see that the footer doesn't respond well on the horizontal axis. So what do we do to fix this? Let me do Ctrl Z, select this here, and then come back to the horizontal. You can see right now it's set to left. What we can do is to set this to scale. Right now, if I select this, let me deactivate the grid. If I select this and try moving things around, you can see how it scales perfectly. So this is what you want to do anytime you want your objects to respond when you scale or when you resize your parent container, parent frame. So if you have any questions, kindly drop them down in the comment section and I'll do well to them. Thank you and see you.